Hi guys, welcome back to another video. This one is a video response to Simon's question, which I forgot already, so I'm going to have a look in the corner of the screen. That was it, the ultimate 6-game arcade machine. Talk about short-term memory loss. So yeah, in essence, you've got an arcade machine in your house, in your bedroom, in your spare room, in your garage, wherever it is, and that arcade machine can have 6 games on it. I think the only stipulation that he said is we can't have any extras on it, such as like a mounted gun for something like Operation Wolf, or a driving wheel for, say, Chase HQ or Outrun or whatever it may be. So yeah, just 6 games. Now the one thing that this arcade machine does have is it's got 4 joysticks, so you can have 4 players simultaneous action. And obviously you got your, I think he said 6 buttons for each joystick or whatever it was. Now that's not to say each game you choose has to feature 4-player compatibility. You can have a single-player game or a 2-player game, but you have the option, if you like, of playing a full 4-player game, if that game allows it. And some of my choices do, some of them don't. I think they're all multiplayer though in some aspect. There aren't any single-player games. But the first one I went for is a game that came out in 1991 on the arcade, but I didn't become aware of it until 1994 when I started college. And that game is called Sunset Riders. Now, when I first played this game, I absolutely loved it, and I spent far too much money on it. Like I said, I was at college at the time, but me and my friends at college would spend far too many hours avoiding lessons, at college, and would be on the pier front instead in the arcades, playing Sunset Riders or Samurai Showdown, Super Sidekicks 2, Daytona, and Ridge Racer had just come out on the arcades back then. And we'd spend all our money. But in particular, for at least a short spell anyway, Sunset Riders was just absolutely fantastic. And I loved the side-scrolling feature to it. You know, it was kind of a cross between, obviously, like a shoot-em-up, which it essentially was, but also like a beat-em-up in the side-scrolling sense. And combine that with the colourful, vibrant effects to it and just the whole cowboy and Indian kind of setting, I just thought it looked fantastic, and it played really well. And like I say, it had that feature for up to 4 players, which, again, just kind of made it a favourite of mine overnight. And it meant that when we were at the arcades, me and, say, 3 other friends could play on it at the same time. And it was just fantastic. And when I found out about this game, the first question I sort of asked myself, is there a home conversion out for this game? Because I want it. Now, at the time, I had a Mega Drive. That was my console of choice. And when I found out it was available for the Mega Drive, I had to go out and get it. And when I did, it was a great game, and it was a really faithful conversion, to me anyway. Maybe if I played the arcade version today and then straight away played the Mega Drive version, there may be a lot of differences and discrepancies, but at the time, it seemed really faithful, a really faithful conversion. So I absolutely loved that, and without question, that would be my first choice on my 6-player arcade machine. So next one up is, funnily enough, I've wrote in the corner, NAB Jam instead of NBA Jam, brilliant. NAB Jam. Yes, NBA Jam, that would be my next choice. Now, I'm not a massive basketball fan. I guess that's probably somewhat obvious coming from the UK. Basketball's not a major sport. But NBA Jam, at the time, when it came out in 1993, was something which kind of blew me away. I loved the cartoon graphics to it. I loved the fact it was 2-on-2 arcade action. It was really fast-paced and furious, and it had that kind of cartoony and comedic element to it. It didn't take the game too seriously, because if it did, I probably wouldn't have been interested because I didn't know a lot about basketball. So it had that kind of fresh arcadey approach to it, and it really grabbed me. Now, this is another game that I played when I was at college, even though I think it came out the year before I started college, but I absolutely loved it. And again, when I found out it was available on a home conversion, the Mega Drive again, I had to go out and get it. And it remains, just like Sunset Riders, one of my favourite Mega Drive games, without question. Again, it's another one which is available on the SNES, but I've never played it, to my knowledge, on the Super Nintendo. To me, the better version was on the Mega Drive. Now, my next choice is slightly odd in the sense that I didn't play a lot of it back in the day, but I played it a little bit, and I played a lot of similar games, and that game is Gauntlet. Now, Gauntlet is, if you like, a hack and slash kind of game, very arcadey, but it also has an element, a degree of role-playing to it, in a sense. Now, even though I didn't play a lot of it, when I did play it, I really liked it, and it features that, or has that feature to it, where you can have 4 players, so again, it would work great on this cab. Now, a similar game at the time, somewhat similar, was Druid, and I had that on the 8-bit machines, the Amstrad for me, and I absolutely adored it. Remains one of my favourite 8-bit games ever. Rock as, or tough as nails, hard as rock, whatever cliche you want to come out. Very difficult game, basically. But I absolutely loved it, and to me, even though I didn't really play a great deal of Gauntlet, I think by having it on my arcade cab, it would make me get into it. 25 years later, or maybe longer, I can't remember when it came out. Probably mid-80s, I reckon, at least. Probably the oldest game that I've got on this list. So that is that. It's just occurred to me that I seem to be looking over there a lot rather than the camera. But whatever, I'm looking at my list and all this information that I have written down. Next up, I would have, this is my fourth choice, would be Final Fight. Now, Final Fight wasn't, to my knowledge, a 4-player game. I think it was 2-player. Obviously, you could do single player if you wanted to. But Final Fight, to me, is very arguably, my favourite beat-em-up of all time. The only other one that will come close to it is Street Fighter 2. But Street Fighter 2 is obviously a one-on-one fighter, whereas Final Fight is a scrolling beat-em-up. So they're slightly different genres. So, with that aspect, or with that in mind, it'd be very difficult to compare them because they're essentially different. But Final Fight for me is great. When I first saw it on the arcade, once again, the first thing I thought of back then is I want a home conversion on this. Back in 91 or 1990, whenever it was, I had an Atari ST, and I had to get it on the ST. Now, I know a lot of people say that the home computer versions weren't particularly good, they weren't up to scratch. But to me, at that time, they were. It just looked the same, it played the same, it felt the same. And I loved Final Fight on my ST, and latterly, I had it on the Amiga as well, and loved it. I haven't played a console version, to the best of my knowledge, but I've played so much over the years, as I'm sure like you have, it's difficult to remember exactly what you have played and what you haven't. But I had it on the ST, and latterly, like I say, had it on the Amiga, and I really, really liked it. I think what kind of makes it even more nostalgic to me is when I bought my ST, the Discovery Pack Extra with the big pink outer sleeve, which I'm desperate to get back one day. It came free. It was one of the games that came free with the ST, and so nostalgically it will always mean a lot to me. So Final Fight, without question, would be on my best of arcade games, one of my 6 choices. And that leaves 2 more, and these 2 are somewhat connected. The first one up there is Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, or Ninja Turtles, depending on where you are. Now this to me is just an iconic game, iconic. When it first came up, when I first played it, I can be somewhat specific. It was March of 1990. I say somewhat, that's very specific. Maybe it was my birthday, in which case it was the 8th of March, so I can be even more specific then. But I can't remember if it was my birthday or not, I don't know, but it was definitely March of 1990. And me and 3 other friends, I won't name them because there's no point, but we went to Tower Park. Now, Tower Park is essentially kind of like a, what's the word for it? It's kind of not like an amusement central park, but you've basically got, it's still there, it's in Poole next to Bournemouth. Again, hardly anyone will know what I'm talking about. And you've got your Tesco supermarket there, so for people who want to get their food and their shopping and all the rest of it. And then at the time, and I'm going back to like the late 80s, very early 90s, you had your 10-screen cinema, which was just amazing. A cinema, 10 different bloody screens. Wow, it was state-of-the-art stuff. I'd never seen or heard anything like it before. You also had, just further on down in this kind of like park, you had, not literally a park with swings and roundabouts and stuff, but you had your ice tracks, which was an ice skating rink, which kind of went outside, and then part of it was inside as well. It was just amazing. And you had a big kind of volcano in the middle, which erupted. Not erupted in the sense that lava would come out, a bit dangerous, but it it glowed in red or yellow or lava colours, whatever it was. You also had your mega bowl, so your bowling alleys as well, and that was a massive indoor complex, which, incidentally, inside the mega bowl it had like an arcade amusement sort of park, where there was literally maybe 20, 30 different arcade games, such as Final Fight, such as virtual reality things which were knocking around at the time. And you had other stuff like Quasar Laser, which was there. It was basically like, I don't know how big it was, but it was a big complex. Complex is the word I was looking for. Where kids, especially teenagers, could just go and hang out. There's also a nightclub there called The Venue, which was great. Looking back now, it was kind of rubbish. But good memories. But anyway, so in the 10-screen UCI cinema, UCI as it was then, and then it was called the Odeon, and now it's called something else. Who cares? I'm completely going off subject. But just as you walked into the cinema, where you could buy your sweets and your popcorn, and the big posters were there advertising what was on at the time, there were arcade machines, usually a couple to the left, and then maybe, I don't know, 100 yards to the right hand doors, there was a couple more. And it was March 1990, like I say, and it was the Turtles, the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles was there. And me and my friends just had to go on it, because at the time we were I think maybe getting a bit too old for the Turtles by this time. We were 12 and 13, but still kids, essentially. But we had to play on it. Now, coincidentally, the day before I played, or we played on this game, I'd read in a magazine a cheat mode, and that cheat mode went along the lines of, if once you lose your life in the game, if you whack the continue button like 50 times in 20 seconds or something silly like that, your continues actually go up on screen, so you come back from the dead. You're alive again. And so every time one of us lost our lives in the game, we just come back to life. And as a result, we completed the game. And by which time, when it got towards the end of the game, we started to get a little bit of a crowd. An audience are watching us thinking, well, what's going on, They were really interested that we were completing a game. We'd been on it for ages. So it was really weird to have like a fan base, watching us complete this game. And we did. It was I think it remains the only game, to my knowledge, again, that I've completed in the arcade. But it was fantastic, and it holds a lot of memories for me. And, when I think of my favourite game ever at the arcade, I think this is one which is always going to be, if not the first, but it probably would be the first, it's always going to be up there. Because, like I say, I was somewhat into the Turtles at the time, maybe at least a year before anyway. But combine that with a really good game, which it was, and the fact that I completed it, with my friends at that time, it nostalgically means a lot to me. So that would be my penultimate choice, would be Teenage Mutant Ninja Hero Turtles. Now my last choice is a bit of a kind of a bit of a curveball, I guess. But it was also my memories of this, my initial memories, go back to that UCI cinema, and it was probably around about the same time, possibly a year later. So let's just say 91, late 90, early 91, give or take. And instead of where the Turtles machine was on the left-hand side when you went into the cinema, this one was on the right-hand side. Now, I actually think the one on the left-hand side, the Turtles, had since been replaced by, and this isn't my choice, but just to say what it had been replaced by, the Simpsons, the Simpsons 4-player arcade cab, which was great, and a lot of fun with it. Arguably could have been in my list, but this one just edges it. So no longer did you have the Turtles, that was replaced by the Simpsons on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side you had this game, and it was WWF Wrestling Fest. Wrestling at the time, I was kind of into it in that kind of 1990, 1991, early 92. I was big time into it. I used to buy the magazine every month, and then I just stopped. I guess I grew out of it, coupled with the fact that on the front, the front of the wrestling magazine, you had these big bulky guys with their pecs, out. And I guess I got to that stage of like 14 years of age in the early 90s, where I started to feel a little bit self-conscious of taking a magazine up to the counter with a topless man on the front. And I thought, I'm not having this. This is a bit embarrassing. So I stopped buying it. But it also it wasn't just that. It coincided with just, I guess, growing out of that scene of the wrestling scene. It was something which I was into from like 1990, 91, 92, like I say. But when I first played this game, it was just unbelievable. The big, bulky sprites that were on screen from the likes of the Ultimate Warrior, Big Boss Man, Hulk Hogan, I think the Legion of Doom were on there, Mr. Perfect. Anyone else from that time, I think, was probably in the game. And because, like I said, I was into wrestling back then, it was just the best wrestling game of all time. And I just, we spent a fortune on it, and we were rubbish at it because it was really difficult. But yeah, one I really enjoyed. And it's another one. I think 5, actually, of these 6 games that I've mentioned all have 4-player compatibility. They were all games which were released at the time which had 4 players, 4 joysticks and all the buttons. So that would work perfectly on this machine of my choice, the arcade cab. So I think that wraps it up. I've gone on for a long, long time. Apologies about that. It's a very long response. But those are the 6 games which I choose. Now, this is an open tag. I'm going to put a response to, a link to the original video from Simon. If you haven't watched the video, please watch it. And if you haven't subscribed, then obviously please subscribe. He's a good guy and all the rest of it. And like I say, it's an open tag, so feel free, by all means, to do your video response of what 6 arcade games you would have in your arcade machine. So that's all for now. Until next time, see you later. God, that went on bloody ages.